Hi students, let's take a look at the plan, shall we? All right, so how many of you are following this plan? Do you know about the plan and how awesome it is? Like, here we are. I love the week view. It's my favorite. I would never use the agenda or day view ever. I am hooked on week. So get into the plan and check week out. Why? Because you get a bird's eye view of everything that's going on. Right now, I have this just set to show the one class that I'm in, but I can set my plan to show all of my courses, and I can also change the colors of my courses so that my plan is a little more snazzy. But I'm good with what I've got right here. So today's Tuesday. You'll notice here it says we have class at 3 o'clock today. And when we get done with this class, this is where you'd find the recording and the exit ticket if you clicked more. And then we also have our project 1. It says come to class January 30th to learn more about this project. That's what we're here for. But how many of you guys did what you were supposed to do on Monday? Chapter 4, the subject. All right, let's go ahead and do this together. So what you do is you scroll all the way down to the Unit 4 test and you right click and you open the link in a new window. Then you're just going to resize your windows so that you can see both your test and the chapter. And when you do that, it's going to look like this, where you've got the Unit 4 test questions over here, and I can read through those. And remember, I tell you every time, the questions go in the same order as the chapter. So over here, I've got my chapters. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the unit introduction. Of all the things about a photograph, what did Mrs. Girot do? She forgot to read the first question. All right, let's see. Question 1. The subject gives your photograph intensity, the title, structure, or setting. Let's find out. Of all the things about a photograph, the subject is by far the most important. The subject gives the photograph meaning to the person looking at it. Did it have meaning? Intensity. Intensity kind of goes with meaning. Let's see. Almost anything can be the subject. Your family, your friends, your pets. These are all possible subjects. These subjects are pretty specific, involving just a person or a thing. There are things that are less specific, but just as important to photographs. These can include your family vacation, your day with friends, or the activities you are involved in. But regardless of what you are photographing, the important thing to remember is that the what, or the subject, has to be clear to the people looking at your images. If the what isn't there, others won't have a reason to look at your work. In other words, the subject of your photographs gives them structure. Ooh, structure. Topic of the photograph. Think back to the 5th grade when you really learned to write paragraphs. You learned a lot about how to put them together. There had to be a topic sentence, 3 detail sentences that related to the topic, and a conclusion or ending sentence that wrapped up or summarized the paragraph. This structure had to be followed every time you wrote a paragraph. The most important thing was the topic sentence. It told the person reading your paragraph what it was about. The same thing happens in a photograph. The subject tells the person looking at it what the photograph is about. Oh, you know what, Mrs. Girot? Forgot to read the next question. Like writing a paragraph, what does the subject of the photograph become? The setting, the topic, the pivot, or the theme? Well, remember, we're talking about topic sentence. So, I personally would go with topic. Next question says, the first thing you need to do when photographing is think about what you want your photograph to show, grab the camera and take as many photographs as possible so you'll have enough to choose from later, write down all the images you want to take so you can check them off, get a new memory card so you can store your images. What's the first thing you want to do? Let's find out. In this section, your objectives are to clearly define the subject of your photographs, analyze the impact of changing factors to refine the subject of your photographs. Portrait photography. All right. It looked like there was going to be something there. Yeah, did you guys ever know, I think I mentioned this before, that if you have a situation where your flash isn't working, you can go up to this little lock right here, and where it says flash, click allow. Ting. All right. Let's take a look at one of the oldest forms of photography, portrait photography.
Portrait photography is the oldest form of commercial photography. When Louis Daguerre introduced his photographic process in Paris in 1839, it caught the attention of American artist and inventor of the telegraph, Samuel F.B. Morse. Morse was so taken by the photograph, which was then called a daguerreotype, that he immediately learned the process. He brought it back to the United States and, with his friend, John Draper, opened the first photographic portrait studio. It was on top of a building in New York. Soon, hundreds of portrait studios opened, and the business of making photographic portraits was born, and the tradition continues to this day. There are two schools or approaches to modern portrait photography, referred to simply as portraiture. One approach uses a studio with all kinds of equipment. This includes all of the big cameras, the flash equipment, posing stools, backdrops, etc. In this age of digital photography, it also includes the computers needed to make all of the prints a customer could want. The studio provides the photograph with a very controlled area and speeds up the process of making the portraits. The second approach is called environmental or location portraiture. Instead of the predictability of the studio, the photographer chooses to work wherever the client is. Most location portrait photographers don't have all of the gear that you find in a studio. Instead, the photographer trusts his or her instincts and skill to create an appropriate portrait. They prefer using small, lightweight cameras, so they can be very mobile, but like their studio counterparts, they have all of the computer gear needed to make all of the prints a customer could want. But whether a portrait photographer chooses to set up a studio or to do location work, there are a number of qualities they share. The most important is a total interest in people, what they do, who they are, and what they want to share with others through their portrait. Is it for family? Is it for work? The most important question is, what can the photographer include in the portrait so we can get to know a bit about the subject?
Well said. Topic of the photograph. We see plenty of photographs that seem to be pointless. There is nothing in them to grab your attention. They are about nothing. There is no subject. The key to creating a successful photograph is to make sure it has a subject or a center of interest. The first thing you need to do is think about what you want to show in your photograph. If you're going to photograph the local skate park, you need to show the bowl, the ramps, and the grinding rails. If you just show the expanse of flat concrete, you will only have a photograph of concrete. To show the skate park, you have to show all of the things that are used. Now the skate park is a topic. To take this a step further, if you really want to show all of the skate park, you'll need to take a number of photographs of the different features. The bowl, the grinding rails, the jumps, all will have their own images. You will take all of these photographs, but the skate park is still the topic, the whole story. But now let's take this another step. You will want to photograph your friend skating, or let's say you want to. He or she will use all of the stuff that is there. Your photographs will include using the bowl, grinding on the rail, going over the jumps, and rolling along the flats to get from one thing to another. The skate park itself is no longer the topic of your photograph. What do you think has become the topic now? The topic is now your friend at the skate park. Ooh. Here's another example. Your mom has asked you to take pictures at the family reunion because she would like to have photographs of relatives she's not seen for years. After some thought, you realize the topic is not the family reunion. The topic is the people at the family reunion. And now you have an excuse. When family members say they don't want you to take their picture, you can say, it's for your mom. The details. Your friend has just had her car painted and some work done to the interior. She has asked you to take some photographs of it. She is really proud of the details and points out all of them, especially her initials on the driver's side door. What will be the topic of these photos? After some thought, you realize the topic of the photographs will be the details in the paint and not the overall car. Your photographs will include a few of the overall car and some of your friend with the car. But after you've taken those, you will move in for all of the details. Have we answered this question yet? The first thing you need to do when photographing is think about what you want your photograph to show. Grab the camera, write down all the images. I'm thinking it's A, but I feel like they haven't come out and directly told us that. I could infer that. Let's see what happens. Let's see about the details. Supporting details give you something to fill blank areas, more information, a way to color balance, a way to compare the size of the subject. All right, let's just keep going. The time. The important thing to remember here is to take the time to figure out what the topic or subject really is. You are telling the story of the subject with your photographs. In the skate park example, you are telling the story of your friend at the skate park that day. In the family reunion example, you're telling the story of the people at the reunion. And in the example of your friend in her car, you're telling the story of the car. I thought we were telling the details, but hey, what did I read? As we all learned in 5th grade writing, the better you define your topic, the better your story will be. Self-check activity. To review what you've learned, spend a few minutes on this self-check exercise. What allows you to adjust the exposure of an image even in program mode? Bum, 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 bum. Is it exposure compensation? I'm thinking. All right, considered to be the topic of your photographs, the subject. Every photograph can be one of these. A story. Exposure mode, in which the camera sets both the aperture and shutter speed. Program mode. How to hold the camera to give it a firm shooting platform. Both hands. Using supporting details. Well, I guess it looks like we might have passed this question. The first thing you do when photographing is think about what you want your photograph to show. I'm going to go with that answer. Hopefully I'm right. All right. Supporting details. Examine the room around you. The room you are in is not a blank space. There is all kinds of stuff in there. If you're in a classroom, there's all the usual classroom stuff. There is a teacher's desk. There are whiteboards or blackboards. There might be posters on the walls and announcements on the bulletin board. There are student desks. If you're at home, there is all kinds of stuff. Home stuff. If you are in your room, there's your bed, your desk, and your chair. There is the stuff on your walls and all of the stuff sitting around on the dresser, the floor, and under your bed. All of this stuff is called supporting details. Explain what supporting details are. Explain how supporting details are used to help define the subject of your photographs. Details support the subject. Nothing exists in a vacuum, neither a classroom nor your bedroom. There are all kinds of supporting details. Just look around. All of those details are important. Supporting details in a photograph are extremely important. They give you more detail about the topic or subject of your photographs. They help tell important things about your subject and help make your photographs more interesting. More interesting both to look at and to take. Let's read this. Supporting details give you something to fill the blank areas, more information, a way to color balance, a way to compare. I'd probably say more information. I'm going with that. Supporting details tell us the location, what the subject might be doing, the context. None of the above. I would say the context. They actually mentioned the word context. Let's see. Thinking in terms of details. Your little brother made the Little League All-Star team. Since this is the first time you're going to take a photograph of him, you force him to change into his uniform and march him out into the backyard. Okay, a little kid in a uniform in the backyard. Not really much here. You can make it a lot better by adding a few details. You can take him to the local ball field. For this purpose, it really doesn't matter if it's the same field where his games will be played. You tell him to stand at home plate with his bat. What you have taken away from the image is all of the backyard stuff that really does nothing for the image. What you have added to the image is all of the baseball stuff that supports the subject. The bat, home plate, the backstop, the dirt of the field. All these things help support your little brother's photograph. Supporting details tell us. We're going to keep on going. Details. There are all kinds of ways to approach the photograph of your little brother. Rather than take the photograph as described, you might want to wait until he plays his first game. If you take the photograph when he is crossing the plate, you'll get the dirt, the chalk lines, and the plate. You can also get the catcher from the other team watching him score and the umpire keeping watch over the game. You might also get some people in the background watching the game or cheering the score. So now, by waiting for the game, you've added more supporting details to the image. All of these give us more information. Your little brother is not only a part of the team, but playing as well. So we did definitely get that right. More information. Okay, still looking for the next answer. Looking around. One more example. Let's say you're on vacation with your family at the Grand Canyon. You decide not to take the group photograph with everybody clustered around the sign in front of the visitor center. Boring, and everybody does that one anyway. But where? Simply look for a location that would add the Grand Canyon to the photograph. There are a number of scenic overlooks at the Grand Canyon where you can include the dramatic landscape. Now you have the supporting details that puts your family at the Grand Canyon rather than at the visitor center. This really isn't hard to do, regardless of where or what you are photographing. You just have to look around. All right, let's do a self-check. The topic of your photographs, the subject, gives you more information about the subject. The supporting details, the amount of light striking the sensor, exposure, a lens that helps bring distant objects closer, telephoto lens, a lens that approximates human vision, a normal lens. Subject, detail, and context. Ooh, I have a feeling the answer is going to be context. Everything has a context or a situation it is in. Everyone has a context they are in. When you are at school or using distance learning courses, you are in the context of a student. When you are with your friends, you are in the context of an equal. When you go to work, you're in the context of an employee. When you go to a store to buy something, you are in the context of a customer. And the same thing is true of the subjects in your photographs. They all have context. I'm going to have to just go with that. I know that's the answer. Explain what context is in a photograph. Explain how the subject and supporting details work together to set the context of the photograph. All right. Subject, details, context. In the previous section of this unit, you learned how supporting details can support and give more information about the subject of your photograph. The other important thing that supporting details do is to put the subject in a context or situation. Supporting details give us information about the location of the subject. Supporting details give us information about what the subject is doing. And supporting details give us information about who the subject is. All of these things give us more information and show us the reality of the subject. So in sum, yes, although location is definitely correct and what the subject might be doing is correct, Context is definitely the umbrella that covers all of that information. Next question is going to be, you are photographing your friend in the local park. Which of the following might be supporting details you want to include in the photograph? His car, his age, the parking lot, the rock outcropping in the middle of the park. What would you pick? I'm going to let you just decide on that one. I think you can figure that one out all by yourself. Number 7, your little sister has won the 3rd grade spelling bee. Which of the following might be details you want to include in the photograph? The gold medal she won, her classroom, her spelling book, or the sign outside her school? I'm going to let you pick that one. What do you think is the best supporting detail for winning the 3rd grade spelling bee? Which one shows evidence that she won it? All right, 8. 3 of your friends are hanging out at your house playing Guitar Hero. You decide to take advantage of the situation and take some photographs. The real subject of your photograph is who is winning, who is playing, how they are holding the game controller, the concentration it takes to play the game, and how into it they are. Wow. I would probably go with the concentration it takes to play the game and how into it they are. That would be my answer. I don't know if I'm right or not, though. I'm just like you. Your grandparents who live hundreds of miles away are visiting for the first time in 8 years. You want to take a photograph of them for the family album. You want to make sure the context reflects that they were at your house. Where would be the best place to take the photograph? Outside by the car? In your living room? At the local park? Or at a local historical site? Remember, you want to make sure the context reflects that they were at your house. So which one of those provides the best evidence that they were at your house? 10. Your grandfather, who is president of the city's 23-member model railroad club, is very proud of all of the work they've done in their train layout. He asks you to take a photograph of him showing his interest. Which would be the most appropriate context for the photograph? In his living room holding a metal train engine? Standing outside the clubhouse so you can read the name on the door as well? Seated at the controls of the system operating it? During a club meeting when he's speaking at the group? Which one of those best supports a photograph of him showing his interest? I'm going to let you decide. I think you can figure these ones out yourself. You and your friends decide to go to the local carnival. You stick your camera in your pocket to take some photographs. You have photographs of them playing the games, etc., but you don't have one of the whole group. Which would be the best context for this image? Everybody standing in line for one of the rides? Everybody standing by the car in the carnival parking lot? Everybody waiting in line to buy tickets? Everybody standing in a group in front of one of the games with all of the prizes displayed? Which one is the best supporting detail for pictures of them playing games? 12. Your brother and sister are in this year's Town Founders Day Parade. Your sister will be with her gymnastics class and your brother will be with his scout troop. Since they won't be in the parade together, your mom has asked you to take a photograph of them together in their uniforms. What would be the best context for this image? So it's gymnastics class and your brother's scout troop in the Founders Day Parade. Okay, so force them to change into their uniforms and take it in the backyard, by the car before leaving on the morning of the parade, in front of a float or other unit in the parade before it starts, after the parade ends when they are tired from all the walking. Which would be the best supporting details of a picture of them for the Founders Day Parade? Oh, wow. And that's it for the quiz. Let's continue the chapter and see what we get out of this. One example of context. Let's say you are photographing a friend. Think of these two totally different contexts. In the first context or situation, your friend is dressed in jeans and his favorite sweater. He is standing by a tree with leaves that are starting to change colors. There is a vast green lawn behind him. In the background, there is a swing set, a slide, and a sandbox. Also in the background, people are strolling along a walk or sitting on benches. There are fluffy white clouds in the sky. Obviously, your friend is in a park, in a fairly cool place, and it's fall. Now, on to the other context. Second example. Your friend is dressed in shorts, his favorite t-shirt, and sandals. He's leaning up against a massive gray boulder. A vast field of various sized boulders stretches behind him. In between the boulders is an occasional cactus, but mostly it's tall brown grass. There's no one else in the photograph. In the background rise treeless, reddish-tinged mountains. The sky is a blazing, cloudless blue. Obviously, your friend is in the desert Southwest. Your friend is doing exactly the same thing in both images. He is leaning against something, but the contexts or situations are totally different. The subject is the same, but the supporting details are almost totally opposite. Self-check activity. The situation that the subject of the photo is in, the context. Help set the context of the subject, supporting details. The topic of your photograph, the subject. Used to archive your photographs, a USB thumb drive. How long the sensor is exposed to light reflected by the subject or scene, shutter speed. Hey, and that brought us to the quiz. So hopefully you guys picked the best answers. I know that you can. Just think about it. Just envision what supporting details are the best. And when you go out and start taking your pictures, that's how I want you to think.